Anyway, hate to be a little drum, but I just, I've been watching a couple of news articles this weekend and last night, and the country's really getting crazier and crazier. So, and I'm saying the same thing in hopes to get people's attention, because we need to have a united middle class. A united and healthy middle class creates a strong America. And you have to listen to who wants that to happen and has ways of making it happen. And then we need to vote people in and vote people out according to their strengths or weaknesses. And it's going to take some time to do, to get finally a handle over our political system, because we have no handle over this. And the founding fathers gave us this. We owe it to them. They weren't perfect people, and they were elites, but they at least saw that this country, the middle class of this country, needs to run the important issues directed by our politicians. And just like you have a head of a company and you have the crew of a company, if that's not going right in a company, one or the other, that company goes out, right? Well, this country is much, obviously a whole different scenario, but it matches a bit, because we're on the way to communism right now, or socialism, and there's just no getting around that fact that either we come together and we pull together and we look out for our neighbors and we talk to each other and we do those things that our founding fathers gave us the freedom to do, and or we don't have a society anymore. Anyway, we're going to start getting this down. I'm still working on some lighting. Barbie's moving to California, so she's going to be producer Barbie remote. But I think we might be able to get her on camera this way. So with all of that said, you guys have a great weekend. Say hi to each other. Go out and say hi to somebody. Just wave at them, man. Start that way. Just wave at them. Every time you see them, wave at them if you don't know them. And then you'll see the reaction change, evolve. You'll see the body language evolve. Go out and say hi to a couple people today. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for being here. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Rod Duff with Insights and Straight Talk. And I've got a really exciting, a very important guest today, Dr. Mike Hicks. And Mark, sorry about that, Mark. I don't know. I look at right there and I'm like, So he and I were talking a little bit in the green room off stage here, and we were going over some things and some really fascination about this for me personally, because I have, and I think producer Barbie's probably on by now, but she knows that this is an important subject for me. Coming up, we have tomorrow. We have two shows tomorrow. I'm trying to cut that back because we're all the way out into March now. So it's exciting. I appreciate the support, everybody out there. In the meantime, without further ado, I'll bring on Mr. Dr. Mark Hicks.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing great.
How was that for a lead up?
That was
for a lead up?
Just awesome.
I'm still working on all this stuff, but I'm playing with trying to get more information packed into a container as possible.
Yeah, well, that was great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I do all my own editing too. so I have limited resources, but it's fun. I just dig this stuff, and I'm learning more and more every day. For instance, I alluded to you that I may be jumping in with some, I feel that I know the experience, that kind of thing coming up. You're going to talk about the 5 methods. Is that the right word, methods?
The word I use is components, the 5 components of love.
And that can be, we were just talking about, your spouse, obviously, and your neighbor and your friend and your coworker as well. These same 5 components match up. Let's go, man. I've been waiting on this.
Yeah, absolutely. If we are going to love our families, love our spouse, our kids, our friends, have a connection with our coworkers, love what we do for a living, love our country, love anything, there are components of how to build that in a healthy way. Now, obviously, the relationship we're going to have with our coworker is different than what we have with a family member, but the
I
same
hope so.
component. Yeah, it needs to be different, and it is different. But
I know.
the
Couldn't resist.
component,
Sorry.
oh yeah, there's things come to mind on that one. But if it works well and works like it needs to, those are different relationships. But how we build them, how we make them healthy, how we apply these components is the same. It just manifests differently for different relationships. But however we apply the connections of life, the love of life, the things we love, the things we want to have a relationship with in life, the people we want to have a relationship with, the same components apply throughout.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. So now when you say components, you need each one of these to build as a block and a stable base in order to build this up, or is it this or that or this or that? Each 5, right?
Yeah, the 5 that I teach are all important. You have to have all 5. The problem with many relationships is that people learn 1 or 2 or 3. They don't know they've learned them. It just kind of comes natural with their family, how they were raised. They've learned 1 or 2 or 3, maybe 4 of these components, and everything's basically okay in their relationship, but then they think something's missing. Something's not quite right. And that's because they're usually missing 1 or 2, because very rarely do you have a family, even if your family's healthy, that can teach you all 5 components just naturally. It usually is a learning process to learn 1 or 2 of them along the way. And when we learn all 5,
and it's not a focus right now, is it? That isn't. We raise our children, but there's an important thing you're touching on here. That's not a focus now, right?
It is not. We assume that, well, if we love each other, we have a healthy family, basically healthy. Every family is kind of odd in their own special way. But if they are basically healthy, people assume, well, we just know how to love each other. That just comes naturally. Well, the capacity to love people, whether it's family or friends or coworkers, whoever it is, that comes naturally. The capacity to do it and the desire to have relationships is natural. But how to do it is a learned skill set. And the reason we struggle so much in relationships is that we just don't focus on it. We assume it's going to happen if we find that right person, find our soulmate, find the right friends, find the right job. Everything's going to be easy and natural. Every other area of life, our job, our hobbies, keeping our house, we work at it. We learn how to do things. We learn how to cook. We learn how to play basketball. We go to the school or trade school or universities to learn how to work a job, to have a career. We work at everything in our life. We learn that skill. And then when it comes to love and relationships, we wing it. And that just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely doesn't. And so our society has evolved and changed back and forth over generations, obviously, and things happening during that time obviously have an effect to whatever degree, and then you have this outbreak of abuse, drugs and this, and our abilities to become more to our family, our spouse, and our friends, but to our kids. I've got grandkids now too. But our ability is so much more, and maybe I'm just have so much more that I don't see. That should be a much easier thing to do, to have that relationship with your family, your friend. Because what I've discovered lately is the more that happens, the more the joy and it starts building on itself, because you feel better about yourself and everything else. Before you respond, I just want to go here. What's the biggest mistake people make in a relationship? We'll get into the 5 components. I trust you, but these guys they're pesky. They just jumping on, asking questions. Dirty rats. You're interrupting our conversation here.
I love questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a number of mistakes, obviously, that can happen in relationships, but the thing that I think really trips people up more than anything else is what I list in my book is the fourth component of love, and that is accepting ourselves. To learn to accept and love and have compassion for and care for ourselves first. Brene Brown's written a lot about this and done a great job researching this. The fact is, we have shown scientifically, Brene Brown and other researchers have shown psychologically, you cannot love other people more than you love yourself. And the biggest mistake we make is we think we can somehow figure out a way to criticize ourselves constantly, beat ourselves up, have terrible self-esteem, but we can still figure out how to love our family, our friends, our kids, our spouse, whoever it is, that we can love them. And we even go so far as to think, if I love everyone else and I treat them well and I do for them and I please them, and we get into that people pleasing thing, I do all this stuff. I look a certain way, act a certain way, carry myself a certain way, act the way people want me to, then they'll love me. And then that will validate me. And then I can love myself. That sounds logical. It never works, ever.
Oh my God.
You have to love yourself.
You just drove straight through my heart on that one. Go ahead. You do, man. I mean,
it's the biggest mistake we make. And if we learn to love ourselves first, and like I say, all 5 components are important. I list that one as the fourth component of love. And it is absolutely critical. And the most overlooked thing, I think, when we talk about love and relationships is that we focus on the relationship, but what we have to do is focus on ourselves first, because love is not a commodity like, say, money. If you need more money, maybe you can work overtime or get a second job or take a loan out at a bank or borrow money from a friend. There's lots of ways theoretically. It's not easy, but you can get money different ways. Love is not like that. Relationships don't work that way. You have to grow that ability, that love, that ability to connect has to be grown within you. It is organic. It is something that we have within us as the human spirit. And a lot of people have debates on where that comes from. Does it come from God? Does it come from our human nature? Wherever you believe that comes from, I'll respect that. I have my own opinions. I respect other people's. But regardless of where you think it comes from, it is there. It is an organic component that we have to grow within us to connect with other people, and that there is no way to acquire love somewhere to make us able to have relationships in a healthy way. It has to be grown within. Love yourself first, because you don't have the ability to love other people more than you love yourself.
All right, you just nailed me, man. I'm done. You just plowed me over there, because that was just number 4, right?
That was just only one of the components. That's the one I list as number 4. I list 5. They're not in order of importance necessarily. It's just
I was going to ask you that.
No,
yeah.
you have to talk about them in some order if you're going to talk about them. So I have them listed in an order of 5, but they're all 5 important. That's just the one I happen to list as number 4. It flows well in the book that way, but it is absolutely essential to have that fourth component, the love and accept, have compassion for, and care for ourselves.
Got a couple of really important questions coming up, but I want to, well, they all are, nothing personal. But sorry, I like to goof around on this thing a little bit and, have some fun with it. But family that's damaged, or a series of generations, similarities go through the generation, and habits and observations and beliefs really come a lot out of that, from grandmother, mother, daughter. I didn't mean that, men too, but just all the way down the line. How can exactly what people need to hear. Thank you. How does that work in number 4, along with the other ones that I'm sure are also, addressing things?
Yeah, absolutely. Every family has its issues, even healthy ones, even ones that are basically happy. They're all their own version of quirky and weird and odd in their own way. And so it may work.
We're human beings.
Yeah. And so it may work great for that family, but then you go out into the world and you're then working with other weird, quirky, odd families that are different than yours. And that's best
Yes.
case scenario. From there, we're talking about toxic relationships, dysfunctional relationships, abusive relationships. It gets worse from there. And so everybody has some issues with family, whether it's a dysfunctional family or even a healthy one. And so the worst thing you can do, speaking about mistakes people make, probably the second most common mistake is saying, well, that's just the way I was raised. That's never a good reason.
Oh,
Never is that a good reason. If you find yourself saying, well, that's just the way I was raised, catch yourself. That's always a bad reason to do anything. Have a reason other than that. Have some thought of why does your family do it that way? And is that the right thing to do? Now, if you come to a conclusion that, yeah, this is not working, I love my family, but it's just not working, I have to go a different direction. Or maybe you were abused and you couldn't say I love my family. You gotta really break from that family trend in order to live a new life. There's an important aspect, and this is what I list as the first component of love, and that is grief. And people are surprised.
Before you go there, sorry to
go ahead.
Did you see what I just put up? We were just talking about the toxic family, and I think what you're getting into is answering this question right now.
Yes.
And this is how you can repair trust after situation. Sorry, I just wanted to, I wanted to give you a lead in on that to bring it on.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
if you need to, there. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, if you want to fix your toxic relationships, one of the primary things you're going to have to do is grieve the loss of that relationship. If you had abusive parents, toxic family, maybe you're glad to separate yourself from them. In some ways, it's a relief, but there's still going to be the loss of the dream, the wish that you could have had a healthy family that really cared for you and treated you right. There's going to be a loss there, and maybe a really major one. Or if you've been through a divorce, there's a major loss there. And so we have to learn to grieve, because that's our comeback story. If we don't, we have a tendency to put up walls and barriers and keep people at arm's length and try to protect ourselves. And when we do that, we're really just building an emotional prison to keep people out. And we're not able to make those connections. One of the things that I always say, no matter how bad you've been hurt, no matter how much somebody has damaged you and broken your heart, you may have to live your life with a hole in your heart, but you can live a really good life with a hole in your heart. It's the same principle as if someone lost an arm in an industrial accident. Life's not the same.
Sure.
They're never going to get that arm back, but they can still live a really good life. It just takes help. It takes learning new skills. It takes time. It takes some healing in ways, some maybe learning use a prosthesis, get physical therapy. If you're going through grief of dealing with that hole in your heart, dealing with those emotional scars, you're probably going to need help. Get a counselor, get a therapist, get a life coach, get somebody that can help you with that. Go through the grief process, because while it's painful, that's our comeback story, so that we can go on to a new life. We put that behind us. We don't fix it. We're never going to change the past, but we're able to move on and have a good life anyway. And that process of grief is vitally important if we're going to overcome the toxic relationships we've had in the past.
And that's not the same for every person, that time to grieve, whatever that is. It's not give yourself 3 months and you'll be good. It depends, right?
It absolutely does.
A million factors.
And that's why I say,
and mix this in with with what we're talking about. I'm trying to keep up with these rocket fast fingers. Anyway, what's your advice for someone struggling with that self-love? And then, go back and forth, because we're kind of going to the next conversation, and it's leading up very well. I got to jump back on a couple of other ones. So shoot.
Yeah. So as we are grieving those things of the past, we're not trying to fix them. We're trying to move on from them. One of the vital aspects of that, and one of the reasons I do say we need to get help, is because you're right. It's going to be different for every person. Every person's going to go through that in their individual way. So get a therapist, a counselor, a coach, somebody for you personally to deal with those details and those nuances. That's vitally important. But as we move from that and we're leaping into a better life, or at least moving slowly into a better life, perhaps. How do we get to that place where we really can love ourselves? We have to start defining ourselves by who we actually are and not what happened to us. So many people look at what
Good
happened to
point.
us and we think, well, I made a bunch of mistakes in my life. Well, that's still stuff that just happens in life. Everybody makes mistakes. Other people make mistakes and that affects us. Sometimes life just happens. And so what I would say is, let's just imagine for a second that I have in my hand a diamond that's the size of a baseball, that's perfectly cut, perfectly clear, priceless diamond. And then I take that diamond out and I roll it around go to the farmland and roll it around in muck and mire and cow manure. That stuff's still priceless. We don't judge it based on what happened to that diamond. All the stuff that's on it, the stuff that happened to it, is not what we judge it by. It's still priceless because of what it is. You can clean that other stuff off. And that's how we learn to love ourselves, when we start learning our inherent value of who we actually are, not based on what happened to us. And the work of, say, religion, when it's done right, is to help clean that stuff off and to learn who we are inherently. The work of psychology and counseling is to clean that stuff off and see who we really are. The work of philosophy is to clean that stuff up and to see the true nature of humanity. There's lots of people working from different angles to get to this same place. We have, as human beings, inherent value and worth, but we make the mistake of judging ourselves based on what happened to us. Sometimes what happened to us is our own fault, their own mistakes, but it's still what happens in life. When we understand our own value, we can look at that and say, well, that's a bunch of muck and mire and cow manure I've been through, but it's not who I am. And that's going to feel odd at first, because when you've grown up in a family that told you you're no good, or if you spent your life telling yourself you're no good, it's going to feel really weird. And that's because your brain has to form new neural pathways. Your brain has to form new thought patterns in order to accommodate something brand new, that you really are worth something, that you have inherent value. Your brain's not used to hearing that. Your brain's used to hearing you're no good. You criticize yourself constantly. You take personally every time somebody else criticizes you. You look at all the evidence of stuff that happened to you and choose to believe that you're no good because of it. Your brain gets used to that. It forms really big neural pathways to run that stuff through your brain. When you start thinking, I am worth something. I may not feel like it, but I am, because inherently we are all worth a value, because we are human, just our human spirit. And when we start understanding that, we start telling ourselves that, thinking on that, the brain will eventually catch up and it will feel more normal to value yourself.
Start building those those synapses.
Yes.
and the neural triggers that enabling that to happen. Is there daily habits that, now I know this is about relationships, but also, is there something you can say to yourself every day or think it, because it is the mind. So you want to create, what's the sports analogy? You've got to take 10,000 swings. Huh?
Yeah. You got to visualize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the daily habits? I got to try and get caught up here.
Yeah. One of them is what we just said. Talk to yourself in a positive way. It's going to feel weird, but do it anyway. Say positive things to yourself. You spend a lot of time criticizing yourself and beating yourself up when you make mistakes. Spend some time celebrating when things do go well, when you get something right, or just thinking about what good aspects are there about yourself. Even if you struggle right now, find something good about you and reflect on that every day. Some other stuff you can do for your relationships. The third component of love that I list in my book is practicality. Just do the practical stuff every day. Do the things that help us to live together well. We focus a lot on emotion of relationships. That's what I list as the second component. It's very important. But the balancing component to emotion is practicality. I often say that emotion brings us together. Practicality keeps us together. Practical things that we do every day, like how are we going to handle the finances as a couple? Who's going to
brings you together.
It brings you together, and it's the practical way that we live together well. Who's going to do the chores around the house? How are we going to split that up? How are we going to parent the kids? Those are big decisions, but they're practical decisions. And things like monitoring your own health, taking care of yourself. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete, but take care of yourself. Get some nutrition, get some rest, get some exercise. That helps us be emotionally healthier as well. If we have depression, anxiety, those things are they wear us down, but they also wear down our relationships. And those are treatable conditions. Go to a doctor, get some help with that. That's a practical reality. These are things that we can do. We can monitor ourselves. Look, are we making good decisions for our own health, our mental health, and our relationship in big ways, but also small ways? It comes down to who's doing the dishes, and making those decisions on a practical level are good things, because you may have heard somebody say, I love them, but I can't live with them. That's people who have made a strong emotional connection, the second component of love, but they failed in the third component, that practicality. They're not living together well. Those small decisions we make every day makes a big difference.
Yeah. So in that same vein, you hit on something on being able to, I just went blank as I said that, being able to go on the, come on, man. Here, let me look at this one, because I think I brought it through here. It was a really wonderful point. I mean, it was very, very, very good. And it's out there in the ether right now. The what I wanted to ask is there, when you're working on things together in today's world, there's been 2 or 3 evolutions of how men are looked at, how husbands, how wives, the structure, you mentioned it. Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Who's going to do this? And who's going to do that? And there's a lot of evolving going on in that back and forth conversation. When you talk about mental health, and you talk about men, and women, and what men need and what women need, are very exacting every time. But do we follow that? I mean, how do you expect this going as our society continues to evolve?
Yeah, at one time, these decisions were very easy. Practicality was a pretty easy concept in a relationship.
Yes.
100 years ago, 70 years ago, we had men's work and women's work, and it was pretty clear what that was. And now all that has changed. Some people feel very strongly we need to go back to that. Some people think that we need to stay out of that. And I'm not going to argue with either side on that. What I will say is, find what works for you in your relationship. Make sure you talk about those things, and don't just assume, because you may have come from a family that was very traditional. Somebody else, you may fall in love with somebody that's less traditional than you. And so those things have to be worked out. The thing is, that's what practicality is all about now, is what works for you. I'm going to respect anybody's decision if they want to live in those traditional roles that we used to have as a standard. If they want to live in a different kind of family structure, I'll respect that too. I'm not trying to make anybody fit into a mold that I think is right for them. But what I do teach is that's a practical reality, is that those things are not dictated anymore by society. Whether you want them to or not, they're not dictated anymore by society as a whole. And so
they have been, though, haven't they?
They have been in the past.
Right?
They have.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the question, is that struggle, and going into teenage boys, girls too. I mean, everybody, we're humans, right?
Yeah.
We're an animal. We're a mammal. We have thought and decision making, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's not. But I see a big curing of the husband-wife relationship coming, because I think, like you said, it's not anymore part of society. It's now, and it is. We're coming out of that. So what do you say about that? Do you think it's going to be even better than it has been? Good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, I don't know that I would judge if it's going to be better or worse. I think that's an individual thought process, but it will be different. And it probably will have components of it that are better and worse. People will look at it and say, we got better on this side, but there's a downside to it. But every couple, and for that matter, even friendships and all of the, and how we relate in communities and how we relate at work are all different than they were. And so we have to have
Exactly.
communication. We have to be practical about it. How do we live together well? That's the practical component. That was easy a long time ago. Even if people didn't like it, it was easy because you fell into these roles. Now that has changed, how do we live together well? And you may choose to go back to those roles in your family. That's fine. And maybe you don't. That's okay too. As far as I'm concerned, do what works for you. But you have to understand the reality that it needs to be a practical conversation of how you're going to live that out. Don't just assume.
It's crazy. I mean, I've listened to this subject on given by other people in the past, and professional people that I worked with, or this or that, or you see on shows. It's fascinating to me the way that this is being presented. That doesn't make it sound wishy-washy, or it's what you're basically doing is come back into what you have. These 5 things are what you're building to work on. And I've never heard it put that way. And it just falls so much into place.
Yeah, practicality. And really the whole book is about a practical guide to love.
What was the name of the book again?
It's called
What's
Learning Love. It's called
Learning Love.
Learning Love.
And it's based on these 5.
Yeah, it's based on the 5 components of love, these 5 pillars, 5 aspects. That you can call them different things. I refer to them as components because I want to imply that they all work together. But
that makes sense.
As we learn these 5 components, they all work together, and it gives us a way of conceptualizing. So like I said a while ago, maybe you have a great emotional bond with your partner, somebody in your family, the people in your family. You have a great emotional bond, but man, things just don't go well. You're always fighting. Even though you truly love these people, you're probably dropping the ball when it comes to practicality. You aren't really talking about how do we live together well? How do we not assume stuff? How do we really talk through who's doing what, when? How do we make this family work? And making choices as a family or as a couple or as friends or whatever it might be. And as we live that practical life, it enhances the emotional aspect. It's not a replacement of it. It enhances that emotional aspect. And
absolutely.
And it all comes together that maybe there is a small grief process there, because maybe you do have to budge from what your family did. And that just kind of stings a little. Maybe it's not a dramatic grief process, but there's a small one, because you grew up just assuming that your marriage is going to be just like your parents. And now you're finding out that maybe it's not. Or you assumed that your workplace was going to be just like your dad's workplace. And now you're finding out it's kind of not. And that there can be a grief process there of thinking, I don't, that's not what I wanted. It's not what I expected. It's just different. And so there may be a little grief process to get to that. And I say little, not to minimize it, but just to realize it's not the same as a death in the family or something. But there is a sense of grief of, it's not what I thought it was going to be.
There.
It's just different.
There's a pocket there.
Yeah. But I can adjust to that. I can grieve that and understand. I wish life could be different. I wish it could be like my parents were. I wish life could be like it was when I grew up as a kid, but it's just not. But how can I make the relationship really work now so we are in a thriving relationship, a happy, healthy relationship, even if we have to work a little bit towards that?
Yeah, and you led right into a perfect Ariel Herrera asks, how do you balance personal growth and a healthy relationship? Obviously, I think you're going to come right back to what you were saying as the base point, which is, you do it together. It's funny how marriages and relationships are much on a much thinner level, but marriages, when you after you get past the passion and start raising families and this and that, and hopefully I'm not wrong and I'm just guilty only myself, but you stop talking to each other. Yeah. You stop like really relating to what you're doing, and that divide just gets more and more and more until it's beyond able to be, unless a miracle happens.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing sometimes when we talk about
Yeah.
personal growth and healthy relationships because um, people have the illusion sometimes that when I find this person and we connect and we choose to get married and we choose to build a life together, and then 20 years go by, 30 years go by, or maybe just 5 or 10 years go by, and you say, you're just not the person I married. And with all due respect to that, I want to say, well, duh, of course not. We all change over
Neither
the
is
years.
neither
Everyone
am I,
changes.
right?
Yeah, no
Yep.
one is. We change over the years. And the idea of personal growth needs to be something that we go into understanding is a positive. People changing doesn't have to be scary. It's called personal growth. And if we assume that we're supposed to stay put in a relationship and always be like we were when we were 23 and got married or something, when we're 33 or 43, that's just not realistic. And the idea of personal growth and healthy relationships is to encourage that growth and be part of that growth, not necessarily doing it for them, but encouraging it, being part of that journey, talking about the personal growth that we're both taking part in. How are we growing as people? What are we understanding? Keeping those communication lines open. And on a practical level, going back to that, as we grow, as we learn new things, as we change as people, how do we keep our relationship close? How do we keep our relationship working well together, even though we're different people than we were 20 years ago? You do that a little at a time, it works. You grow together, not necessarily the same ways. You can grow in different ways, but you still keep that practicality of as we change, as we grow, as we learn, how do we practically, on a practical level, keep our emotional connection? How do we live together well? How do we continue to make decisions together? And so it's a process that we go through. If we're growing personally, but we're not sharing that with our partner's not open to hearing it. There's a defensiveness there of, well, I think you might outgrow me and I'm scared of that, so I want to hold you back. Then we're talking about power dynamics. That's not a healthy relationship. If we're getting into this fear that my partner might outgrow me or I might outgrow them and I don't want anything to change and I'm going to keep everything like it is and I'm going to stay like I am and I'm going to make sure they stay the way they are and we're going to keep things like this. That is a power structure, a power dynamic that is enormously unhealthy but common. It doesn't work very well in relationships and ultimately leads to really unhealthy relationships. So personal growth needs to be part of relationships. Personal growth should go hand in hand with a healthy relationship when it works well. But we
Exactly.
encourage that because love is empowering. Love is not about power. If you're wanting in it for the power, you want to be dominant, you want to hold people where they are, you don't want to see them grow, then you're in a power dynamic. And power, you can have love or you can have power. You can't have both.
Yeah.
Love is empowering. It gives power. It encourages people to grow because if you love somebody, you want the best for them and they want the best for you. And so it becomes this
Exactly.
dance that we do. We dance into the future and we dance differently as we get older and we learn new things. But make it part of your healthy relationship, not separate from it. Personal growth needs to be part of the healthy relationship as you go.
100%. And as we were talking, I thought about um, the way dating and people look at now it's changed again because now kids are waiting longer. It's starting to revert back. But I mean, my mom got married at 18. I got married at 23. And that's not uncommon during those times. What and you always, I don't know if you're holy or not, you typically go see at least a pastor or a priest that's going to talk to you to do the ceremony if you have it there. um I've always heard and noticed that it's hardly ever done, but um what do you recommend people doing before? Now the friendship is the friendship, and the coworker is the coworker. But what do you recommend people do? Is there a time frame, or is there certain things that, because a lot what happens is you start off and you're attracted to each other and you make the best of who you are shown for this potential mate. It's part of the human. It's part of being a life. Males always try. You want to show your best way, but that comes back and kicks your butt, especially how are your kids going to be raised, and that's a big one. That usually is the beginning of the end kind of thing, right out of the gate.
It can
and
be,
it can be nasty.
Yeah.
It can be. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, when it comes to dating, I think there is one monumental goal that we need to work toward. Of course, you're talking about, are you attracted to one another? Are you compatible? Do you have the same basic ambitions, or at least compatible ambitions in life? There's all those things that we talk about when we're dating, and what kind of life would we want to build together if we're going to stay together for a lifetime and plan a life together. But I think there is one primary thing that dating needs to accomplish, and that is to establish trust. And trust, it's very important to understand, has to be given and earned simultaneously. And
how does that happen?
It is a growth process. It is this little dance that we do. If we just throw open the doors of trust and we trust blindly, we're going to get hurt. There are people in the world that will see you coming and they will destroy you if you are one that just throws open the doors and you just trust blindly. However, if you go to the other extreme and you never really trust, you always want to watch people. You've been hurt in the past, maybe you came from a dysfunctional family and you want to keep an eye on them. Well, then you never learn. You can't trust them because you could always say, well, they didn't do anything wrong, but if they had the opportunity, they probably would. And so you never learn to trust them. The idea is to give a reasonable amount of trust, but not blindly, and let them earn that trust. And they do the same for you. They give you a measure of trust and you earn that trust. And you do this dance of giving and earning simultaneously, both people in this relationship, giving and earning trust simultaneously. And it's this little dance we do back and forth. And there's times that we might mess up and we have to work through that. We have to deal with that. But we work through that until we can trust each other completely. And when you do that, then you're ready for a lifetime together, because when you trust somebody, then you can work out maybe differences of way you want to parent children. You can work through those things because you have a basic trust that you're working together for each other's well-being, the well-being of your children to come. And so that when you have that core foundation of trust, you can work out a lot of the other things of life. But if you just stop with, well, we're compatible, we enjoy our time together, we're attracted to each other, we have fun together, and we want the same things out of life. If you stop there and you're not really giving the opportunity for that person to earn your trust, and you're not earning theirs along the way, it's going to trip you up, because you're going to get to the hard decisions of life and think, do I really trust that this person has my best interest at heart? Do I really trust that they're in it for not just themselves, but me too? But when you spend your dating life focused on this idea of trust as the primary thing, going back and forth, this little dance, earning and giving and earning trust simultaneously, to the point you learn to fully trust one another, then you're ready to build a life together and deal with the hardships that might come.
Yeah, it's like working out or building your muscle or whatever. It always, I mean, it literally always, we go into relationships thinking the relationship's going to fill me and blah 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 without any real concept. But it always comes back. You got to do work.
Yeah.
Whether it's a job or, even friends there, you got to work on that too, back and forth. But it's amazing how it all comes back to the same thing. It's the effort. It's the work. And that's a pretty engaging thing. Couple things for you here. How do you recognize emotional manipulation? And got some dramatic questions here back and forth, are dramatically different. I didn't mean that. So what do you think here? Let's. I've got 3 or 4 I'm way behind on.
Yeah, that can be a tough thing because especially early in the relationship, you are emotional, you're attracted to that person, everything's new. And so how do you recognize that? Couple of things. Don't keep secrets. Have people in your life that have your back, that know you, and trust you, and talk about those relationships when it's early, when everything seems just wonderful. Don't just tell everything's wonderful. Talk about everything. Don't keep secrets. And I always recommend everybody needs to be in counseling. If these are such important questions, and I know I get
Yeah.
pushback on that, but listen, you go to a doctor for your physical health, you go to a dentist to fix your teeth, you go to a mechanic when your car is not running well, you may call a lawyer, you may call a plumber. There's all kinds of professionals that we use to help us in life. Why would you do anything less with your emotional health, your mental health, and with your relationships, especially your relationships that might lead to marriage and lifelong partnership and children? Why would you leave that to chance and not get a professional just like you would if you had a toothache? And so I know it's difficult sometimes, but get some help and talk to people, your friends that you know, that know you. And when somebody says, really? They said that, and they give you that look, pay attention. It doesn't mean you have to break up with them immediately, but pay attention.
You got to give your friends, it's not like 0 to 100. You got to give your friends some background as building that muscle, right? I mean,
Exactly.
It can't be all of a sudden, well, this happened. Well, what the heck? What do you mean by that? And it's already years into it.
And we want so much to have happy relationships. We want so much to find our partner in life very often. A lot of people do, not everyone. Some people are happy being single, but a lot of people really, really want to find that special someone. We're so motivated to do that, to buy the house, to have the kids, to live the life. And we're so driven for that it's easy to overlook some of the red flags. And so the most important thing you can do with your friends, family, and if you will, a professional, don't keep secrets. Talk about your relationship. Talk about it openly. Doesn't mean you badmouth the person you're with. Just talk about the stuff that you're going through. And if you start getting people that are a little nervous and saying, I'm not so sure about that, doesn't mean you have to overreact. Just pay attention and start measuring. Is this something I need to really be cautious of?
Friends will see a trend or a pattern quicker than you will.
They will.
Blinded by love kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, going back and forth about all the things needed, it boils down to work and effort. And let's take a step back from what we were talking about, and go a little bit back on the friendship side. If you look down on your screen, what about helping somebody else? You're talking about, we'll see those patterns now. Is there, and every relationship's different. So this is a really tough question, but it's easy because you could say anything because everything's true.
Yeah.
How does a friend help somebody through what we're talking about here?
If you've got a friend that's going through a tough breakup, there's a tendency to want to make things better for them. And so we say things like, hey, don't worry about it. They weren't good enough for you. Or, hey, I'll help you find somebody else. I got a friend I can hook you up with. Or, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And those things aren't necessarily helpful if they were really invested in that relationship. There will be a grief process. We're going back to that first component of love, that there is a process of grief they need to go through in that breakup in order to heal from that and go on to healthy relationships. They may have emotional scars, but you can still go on to healthy, happy relationships. But there's a process of grief. They've lost something. They've lost something important. They've got emotional scars from it. And so if that relationship was important to them, and they really thought they had something special, and then it's gone for whatever reason, give them a space to grieve. Don't try to just make things better for them. Don't try to get them through that. It'll be uncomfortable for you as a friend, but be uncomfortable. Love that person enough.
Receive, don't pitch, right? Kind of receive what they need.
Yep.
Everybody's different, but like you're saying, let them grieve. Be the shoulder. Don't be the mouthpiece necessarily. Exactly. If they ask you something, it's about them. It's not about you helping them, right?
Right. Yep. Listen to them and encourage them to get help. I always say that. I'll go back to it every time. Encourage them to get professional help. If they're really struggling with this, encourage that. But give them a space to grieve. Give them a space to talk through the stuff. And they will talk about it much more than you want to talk about it. People that are grieving tend to really
Sure.
want to process this over and
100%.
over again. Be patient. Let them talk about it. Let them grieve through it. Best thing you can do for your friend.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. Some great questions here. And look at this one. Incredible insights. Who else is taking notes? Come on, Don.
Awesome.
Don, you're blowing smoke up our dress.
I love it.
So what are some of the other so what are some of the other things that you would want, not closing statement or anything, but some things to kind of continue to lead up on, because this is about inner love, being able to attract love from the outside, mixed with you said trust and all of that, but mixed with effort and interest and taking the time up front. What do they say? You spend more time, or people spend more time planning their vacation than they do their marriage, pre-marriage life.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's like half of marriages fail, right? Is that still a correct number?
Roughly, yeah. It varies year to year, but roughly, yeah, in general terms, yeah, you could still say roughly half. And then the question on top of that is, of those that stay married, how many are happy? And that gets to be a different question of not just do they divorce, but do they want to divorce and they're staying together for the kids or for the money or for religion or some other reason. And so, there's a lot of people out there that are either divorced or wish they could be. And we get to a better place than that we understand how to build those healthy relationships. And what I want people to know, you're absolutely right when you say it's work, but I would add to that, people that are really skilled at something, we look at maybe professional athletes, for an example. Nobody picked up a basketball and for the first time they picked it up, they knew instinctively how to play ball like LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Steph Curry. That doesnn happen. But
good coverage over the whole group.
Right, generation.
Well, names picked there.
Bring it all together.
You didn't bring yourself in any booze coming out here. That was good. I liked it.
But these guys, they really make the game easy. It is easy for them. It flows.
World of difference.
They're in the zone, but it takes work to get to the point that it's easy. And relationships are the same thing. Relationships do flow. They are easy, but it takes work and practice and understanding to put that work into place in order to make it easy. So is it work? Yes. Is it easy? Yeah. But it takes work to get it to be easy. It takes work, just like a professional athlete will practice every day of their life. But man, when they're in that game, it just flows. We want to practice love using the 5 components of love. We practice love. We put it into practice. When something's not working right, we have a way of saying, hey, I got 3 of these going really well, but these 2 components are just not working as well. And we work on that. We get help if we need it. And we usually, everybody needs it at some point. And we work at it. But when we work at it, it becomes easy. It flows. It's not just work. It's a flow.
And that kind of goes back, I think, at the very beginning, somewhere up there, we're talking about, well, the old saying, find something you love and call it a job. That is a different, find the person that really is don't just this or that. And we're all kind of insecure when we're young and kind of chase things that are different priorities. But look at, your parents' priorities and, what are you gonna pick as a job and make it and love what you're doing every single day of the year.
Yeah. And that's, I always say these 5 components, they work for every kind of love, including what you love to do for a living. The love we have for our friends, the love you have for the nation, for society, for your neighbors, but also especially for your family, for your spouse, for your children. It works in all of them because in every area, I mentioned grief being the first component. You're going to have days on the job. It's going to hurt. You're going to be disappointed. Maybe you lose a job somewhere along the way, or maybe you don't get that promotion you wanted, or maybe somebody's just difficult to deal with. And we got to bring the practical side to dealing with how do we have a healthy workplace, even though some people can be difficult. We want to be emotionally connected to our coworkers. We want to work beside them side by side. We've got to know our own value in the workplace, know the value we bring to it, and then appreciate the value others bring as well. And the fifth component that I haven't mentioned yet is fun.
Right.
It's enjoyment. Enjoy your relationships. Don't forget to have fun.
Expand on that. How? What do you do?
You know,
What do you mean by that? Obviously, you're going to expand on it, but you have fun. Life is either fun or not at different times. What are you talking about? Having fun, being a partner?
Yeah,
right?
In every area of your life, look for opportunities just to enjoy what you do and the people you're with in life, because your brain is wired up to protect you. Your brain is wired up to find things that are going to hurt you physically and hurt you emotionally, that are going to insult you or offend you. That's what we're on the lookout for all the time. Our brains instinctively do that. Our brains do not necessarily look for instinctively ways to have fun, ways to enjoy life, fun things that happen.
True.
We have to learn to do that. That's a process of training our mind to think on a higher level than just the instinctive, how do we protect ourselves, and get to a place that we enjoy our relationships. Now, life is serious. That's why practicality is the third component. And life is tragic at times. That's why grief is the first. We don't forget those, but we also need to remember that life needs to be fun. And so many people in marriage, for example, they've got a whole list of stuff. They want to get married. They want to get the job. They want to get the promotion. They want to build the house. They want to have the kids. And they do all this stuff. And then they think, is this it? And no, it's not. Those are the practical things that we do, but it's the emotional things that we do, but we need to remember to have fun. And that's the component a lot of people are missing, is they forget to enjoy the very stuff they're working for so hard. Enjoy the people you're with. Enjoy your job. Enjoy your kids. You can't every day, but do it every chance you get.
And like you said, look for that joy, or look for it. Don't be passive. Just literally look for it.
Yeah, look for
it. In each and every day. And that also, we've come full circle now. So you started off by talking about looking within yourself and love yourself. And now we're full circle to where you're coming back into yourself. This is a relationship thing built on building yourself, making sure you're worthy of somebody to be in a relationship with.
Yeah, these are healthy people having relationships with healthy people. That's what we're looking for, is that we are healthy, growing in our personal development, growing in our ability to grieve, to connect emotionally, to live together practically, to love ourselves, to have fun in life. All these things come together. When you can do all 5 of those things, if you can do all 5 of those and practice them, you can build healthy relationships. And as the people in your life are also doing that, we work together to build healthy, happy, thriving relationships. And when something's feeling off, we look at which one of those components isn't working, or maybe 2 or 3 that aren't really working. And we have a way that we can conceptualize it and say, this is what I need to work on. Instead of having a million moving parts, we look at which component is kind of out of whack right now, and we have something specific to work on.
Oh, you were too quick that time. I was trying to bring up the and I was like, oh God, no, not at all. It's just these you're a one-man show, so I am. So you got a couple things to do there. I was trying to set up the next thing, and I hear you wrapping up. I didn't give you enough time, I guess. So, all this stuff is work, and it comes back to find a job and find something you're passionate about and you love and adore, and call that a job, and everything will take care of itself. Find a person that and take your time. That's another thing. So let's go through the 5 things again, and please, a closing statement, your book. Let's chat.
Okay. Yeah. The first component is grief, because we're all going to get hurt along the way, and we have to have a comeback story. We have to have a way back in order to stay connected. So learn how to grieve and get help with that when you need it. The second is emotion. We need to have those emotional connections. That's the great joy of relationships. That's what really bonds us together, is having that emotional connection. We need to live together well. We need to have practical, realistic practical decisions of living together well. And that means taking care of ourselves, making good decisions about our household, making good decisions about our job, making sound decisions, and again, getting help with that when we need it. Loving ourselves first, accepting who we are, having compassion and care
100%.
for ourselves in order to, because you cannot love other people more than you love yourself. And finally,
Great point.
enjoy your life. Yes, it's serious at times. Yes, it's tragic at times, but every chance you get, don't miss an opportunity to enjoy life and have fun with the people you love. That will enhance the joy. It will enhance the emotional connection, and it will enhance your life in general and make you healthier in the process. And if you can do that, if you can grieve the tough times, connect emotionally, live practically, love yourself in order to love others, and have some fun along the way, you can build a healthy relationship in every area of life, even if you've come through a divorce or from a dysfunctional family. These are practical ways to build the healthy relationships you want.
Terrific, man. What a great day. And it, it's all, you got to be, you can't be absent in it. You got to be active in it.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of looking for and applying yourself to the needs of whatever relationship it is.
Yeah, it's a practice. It's always a practice. It doesn't just happen. It's not luck. It's not serendipity. It is a practice. And so I teach these 5 components in my book. It's called Learning Love, Building a Life That Matters, and Healthy Relationships That Last. It comes out in June of 2025 from Morgan James Publishing, wherever books are sold. It's available now for pre-order as we record this. It is available for pre-order. And I'm a first-time author, so I'll just say, if you're inclined to maybe buy the book, you're interested in buying the book, please pre-order, because the booksellers like to see pre-orders for new authors. That's something they really look at. And so that will help make sure this message gets to other people. By the booksellers will promote it and distribute it more if they see pre-orders. And so you can help more people get this message. If you go to my website, it's markahicks.com. Make sure to get my middle initial in there. markahicks.com.
Any dot or anything?
Nope. markahicks.com.
All together, one word.
All together, all one word. My last name is Hicks, markahicks.com. There's an easy link there to pre-order the book. There's also a free ebook that's available on my website that you can receive, no cost there, and it is the 5 components of love.
Download.
It's just download it, receive it in your email, and it gives you the 5 components of love, a brief overview as I've given today to kind of get you started until the book comes out in June.
Wow. So what was the name of the publishing? I'm just starting to query a book, so I lit up. That was kind of cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. Morgan James Publishing. They've been great to me. I can't say enough great things about Morgan James Publishing. They've just been wonderful. And they have awesome programs. For instance, if you buy, say you pre-order the book, it arrives in June, a paper copy of the book, paperback copy, you get a free ebook with that. And so you'll have the paper book, and then there's instructions. There's instructions in the book on how to download a free ebook to any device that you like, so that you can have that. And maybe you want to give the paper copy away, or you can send the ebook to someone and keep the paperback for yourself. Morgan James has great programs like that for the reader. So I'm excited to be part of their program.
Good for you. That's very exciting. I look forward to that going on, but I also look forward to seeing your book. Would you put your email in the text on the side? I like to, at the end, have you put your information, copy and paste, or whatever you want to do, and then I'll put my email on there as well. Because what always happens, I mean, hell, we're selling your book here, and we still got 600 people on. They're looking at what this message is and how important it is to them. So yeah, please put in your email or whatever contact. Your website may be the best way to go.
Yeah, there's a contact form on my website. You can contact me through the website, easy contact form. I'm available for speeches and workshops and all matter of things, coaching. And so if you would like, contact me, or just let me know that you listened to the show today and maybe you learned something along the way. I would love to hear from the audience. So go to my website, markahicks.com. Just scroll down. There's an easy contact form, or there's a link there for the contact. I would love to hear from folks.
You're awesome, buddy. Hey, I'm gonna meet you back in the green room here in a little bit. I'm gonna do a little bit of administrative stuff.
Awesome.
You didn't let me get as much of it done because you were messing with me because I was taking too long. But okay, I accept that. I accept my errors there. And boy, there was a lot today. I was stumbling a bit.
Oh, you did great. This was fun. This was fun.
Oh, I love these things. I love these things. So go ahead, put your information back on there if you want, and say have a great day.
Thank you for listening. Have a great day, everybody.
You bet. All right. So that was a blast. I that sometimes that subject can sometimes get a little, not artsy fartsy, but kind of a little 60 love child thing. You get that picture. But what's fascinating is the more and more the human being, as the human beings evolve, we start really looking at and understanding that the human being, the mental capacity, the logic, all the different things that makes up a human, which is very, very complicated. I think they say if you use the energy of your body, you could keep a medium-sized city lit for a day, a month. I should have checked that out, but I don't remember. But the human being is a very important animal. The human being is also a very complex animal, and it's great to see guys like Mark come in and take the experience that they have and not just kind of throw it out there, but really, really get some passion in behind it, because we all know that, this world is an important place, just like this middle class is an important place. And there's so many different situations and evaluations that people have. And we just need, and you notice there was several themes there, but it keeps coming back to come talk to somebody, get that feedback, get that back and forth of what is important and what you're seeing. Guys, don't be, and husbands and wives and kids with parents, don't be afraid to talk openly. I mean, I'm not perfect, and my kids know that. So they know whatever advice I have is from my own life experiences, and like we all want, you want the next generation to be better off than you are. So I was going to go through I'll send a note out later about that we've got 2 episodes coming up tomorrow, and then one more. No. Then we have 5 episodes next week. We're booked out to the 26th with some holes. So, if you're interested coming in and joining in and having fun here on the show, I'm Rod Duff. I'm with Insights and Straight Talk. We are an IMS company, and so very glad that we appreciate your support and keep coming back. We've got these same subject titles, our same information that is important, that's critical, because we all have to come together. We have to evolve to that next step, because we've taken steps back. And Mark went through that quite a bit, sprinkled in there as far as where human relationships are. And oh my God, today is a crazy day. I think you heard me probably, but anyway, people will keep coming here. Know that that's not totally unusual. I'm technically not quite sound. So with that, I'm Rod Duff. This is Insights and Straight Talk. Come and visit us on YouTube at Rod Duff 1939. My website is rodduff.com. And also the other is the imstri.com, and you'll see a lot more posts on that one. But we are building this channel. Come back every day, subscribe, and till next time, we'll see you, folks. And I'm doing it right this time. So, as you could tell, I just got through running across the cornfields with my dogs to come over here on a Saturday and say hi to everybody. So I'll get better at this. We'll get higher quality in the editing room, because I do all my own production too. Anyway, again, love you guys. Go say hi to somebody. Just wave at somebody. Start there. Just wave at some people. Younger people, older people. I did that backwards, didn't I? Younger people, older people. Just go out and say hi. Let's start. There was a hashtag that Barbie wants to get started. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look through some of the old films. We need to be pulling together and discussing these items, and not be afraid to have a dinner. What do they call it? Table dinner, or around the dinner table. Politics is a device to keep this country moving forward. I know that all the people in the middle class want this country to keep moving forward. I also know that the politicians we have currently in place on both sides of the aisle, some way more than others, but we have a situation now where the politicians don't want us to necessarily move forward. They want, and our education and our information to be lower and lower, so that they can control more. They have very perfect lives, really, and these are the things we don't understand. You know, we need to really be able to have the courage and have the patience to be looking at our politicians more directly, with more information. As I've said before, we have a utopia coming, and if we don't have control over our politicians, as that utopia comes, then we won't have that utopia. We will be moved into whatever needs that the country has, without the rewards. This middle class of America has been stronger and done more than my own. I know I'm biased, but than any other. As a matter of fact, all the middle classes, around the world, is what the economy is built on, and we have no say at how that money is spent.